Hi all. Want to start out hi all. Hi all. Hi all. I want to start out with making sure you hit the subscribe. I know I'm repeating, but I've not got a whole lot of people hitting the subscribe. Got to get the videos up of watching. Um, I'm going to start a new series here. There's going to be quite a few videos on this on networking. Networking has changed a lot over the years. Um, in front of me, there's some devices here. They're basically all the same, um, but they're not. They're the same kind of device, but they're not truly the same device. Couple terms: you have routers, you have firewalls, you have wireless, you have wired networks, you have now your modems, you have Ethernet. All these terms, all these things come into play now. In the old days, you used to buy one component that would be basically a modem that then you would hook to a second component that would be like your router. And then if you wanted a Wi-Fi network, you would connect your router to your Wi-Fi. Nowadays, things are a lot different. Nowadays, you can pretty much get a unit that will do everything you want in one. Nowadays, cable modems, you get them from the cable company. It has where you can pay, like the company I've got here, you can pay an extra fee to use the wireless feature on their modem. On that modem actually has a switch and a router. Everything that you're going to need to set up multiple devices with. From that is a good starting point for any home user. But if you don't want to pay the additional fees, because let's say you're putting this network in and you're planning to keep it for 5-10 years, without wanting to spend an extra $5 or $10 a month where you're paying $120 or $50 a year for a piece of equipment to use that you're basically renting. That's one factor you want to look at too, is if you are looking at a upgrade on your networking, on your network, it can get a little expensive, but there are cheaper alternatives out there to how to upgrade your network. One of the key tips that I will tell you is you don't always need the newest, greatest, and fastest. There's a lot of reasons why. I will be going over this more and more and more in all these videos. I will be covering a lot of detail because it can get confusing nowadays. It can get really confusing nowadays. Now that you have all this multiple wireless out, you still have G, N, new Internet 6 out. A lot of these things are nice. There's a lot of features that come into play with the newer technology. Wi-Fi 6 is a great new thing that's out there. Problem is, for you to take advantage of Wi-Fi 6, every single device on your network has to be Wi-Fi 6. Or it's AX or whatever the standard is. AC is the standard kind of before that current main standard right now in 2020, and I'm sure will be around for quite a while longer, because of the factor is for the new Wi-Fi, you really need all your devices to be on the new Wi-Fi. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use it with older devices. If you use it with older devices, you lose some of the nice features with the dual channel bandwidths and all the other features that are coming out with the new Wi-Fi 6. But if you can get Wi-Fi 6 for a fair price, that's the kicker, the fair price, it might be worth buying the router or the modem or whatever you need to do to have that component. So when you do buy upgraded stuff, because you never know, you got Black Friday specials, you got Cyber Monday specials, you got Labor Day specials, you got all these specials out there that somebody may run a killer deal on something. Because, like the factor I brought up, this is one of the key factors I want to mention with networking. Wi-Fi 6 is completely different than all the older generations. If people are not fully adopting it with like any technology, there's two things they're going to do: eliminate it or cut costs. Now, you'll see, even with Blu-ray and other technologies out there, that why did Blu-rays overcome other formats? Well, for one, you had movie studios out there selling movies really, really cheap on Blu-ray. They may have been older, but it made it harder for the competition. Once everybody got into that standard and what the Blu-ray players were available on, like certain game consoles, it made it widespread. Now look at Blu-ray prices. They're higher because they're mainstream. So that's one factor I want to point out. That's with all technology, everything. Even with the new M.2 PCI .4, or not .4, but the 4 bus standard times 4 standard. Right now, you can get some cards out there for like $200, where the 3 times are pretty close to the same price. That's because there's not a lot of boards and a lot of other things to adopt that on. So it's holding the price down because it's not so widespread. One of the factors I wanted to bring up, because that will be a major factor when you're looking at stuff like this. All of these here are great devices I have in front of me. All of these I bought at thrift stores, because somebody went out and bought the newest, latest, and greatest technology and then got rid of these. Well, why you do that, you run into issues, because they're buying all the latest and greatest, and you can pick up older products floating around pretty cheap. The one factor that a lot of people don't take into account is how fast is your internet speed. If you're sitting on a 300 meg, 200 meg, 100 meg internet speed, it does not really benefit you to go out and buy PCI 6 or Wi-Fi 6 or whatever kind of new standards are out there. Let's say you have, like where I'm at, you have 100 meg internet speed. It truly does not make sense for me to go buy Wi-Fi 6 that has 1,000 megabytes transfer, because I can't use that for internet. You can use it for other internal things. If you're going to stream movies, if you're going to use your webcams internal and DVR it, have a recorder internal without going out to the internet, those features come available for you. That may be when you want to look at this. For most home users, you can get away with the older technology because you're sitting on a 200 meg internet speed, and N or G, is running 300 meg data connection speeds. You're okay with that. These are things when I'm going to refer to, do your homework, double check these things. This is really an important factor that I think nobody touches on. Nobody will mention this. That is why I'm doing this channel, to save you guys money, to try to save people hassle. I don't want you to go out and buy the latest and greatest unless you're going to absolutely need it. I have a nice unit at the house I bought at a thrift store. It is one of the latest, greatest AC routers with media sharing, file sharing, every bell and whistle, everything integrated in it. $10. I want to state that because when you're a home person, I want you to realize you don't have to go to the big box stores. You don't have to buy the latest, greatest. Even if you're in business, you don't have to buy the latest and greatest. Because most of the time, what you're looking at to run on there will not have the latest and greatest. If you're a gamer or into some heavy stuff, you may want the latest and greatest because it has features in here that you can go configure for gaming. How that really benefits you really is an argument depending on how much you got on that network, how much bandwidth, what kind of cable you're running. I won't bring that up. It does depend on what kind of cable you're running. I will have more videos on Cat 5, Cat 3, those are legacy. Again, Cat 3, Cat 5 are legacy. That means they're old, pretty much obsolete. If anybody is using that, they're using it for phone cable. They're not using it for internet. They're not using it for data. It's basically for phone. Problem is lots of phones nowadays are digital. They're going through the internet. That's one factor I want to bring up. The current cable is Cat 5e, Cat 6, Cat 7, and I believe there's a Cat 8 standard coming out soon or rolling out. There's a huge variable. Now, what I mentioned before, Cat 3, Cat 5. Cat 5e is different than Cat 5. Cat 5 enhanced is technically different than the Cat 5e. When you get into researching this, it's going to be hard. There's not a lot of details on this, but Cat 5e enhanced was in between Cat 5 and Cat 5e. A lot of it will be marked like Cat 5 enhanced. You can use it, but I would look for the true standard of the Cat 5. That is the new modern cable. Most of that cable will be fairly old. You want to get to the newer cables. You don't want to use the really old stuff. Especially like if you're in a business, I wouldn't even recommend Cat 5e. It's time to move up to Cat 6. There's a lot of variables between Cat 5e and Cat 6. The twist rates, the inner liner, most of it you can get shielded. If you want to buy pre-made cables, make sure go to Cat 6 and get the shielded cable. This is some of the key factors when you get into networking. This is going to be a long first video. There's going to probably be 2 segments to this because I'm covering a lot of factors. This is going to be basically, hopefully, an introductory. I will go into more detail of what all these are, how they work. Can you still use this? You can use pretty much anything. Nowadays, um, you can get units. This is actually quite an old unit. I actually love this unit. As you can see, there's a Goodwill sticker on there. I actually found this at Goodwill. This unit is a great unit. This is a business wireless network unit. You can use this at home. You can go out and pick one of these up. You can go online and find these where people are selling them for 80 bucks. Still, this is a unit that's not made anymore. It's an obsolete unit. But first thing you want to do is know what you want on your network. Most of all IT people will tell you, you want a firewall on your network, you want a switch on your network, you're going to want possibly Wi-Fi on your network. There's some places you don't want Wi-Fi. There's some places you don't want to have access on Wi-Fi. So you have your routers, you have your firewall, your modems, hubs, switches, what else? These are all separate devices, or they used to be separate devices. Now they're more considered features. This unit here, is it a switch? Is it a router? Is it Wi-Fi? Is it firewall? Is it a media center? Does it data share? Is there a USB port where you can share photos, videos, media? You can do a lot of things out of these devices now. In the old days, they all used to be separate devices that you would hook. They were nice because if one device failed, you can replace it. The downside is you had 8 of these devices all running electrical. You were using a lot more electricity, you were using a lot more cabling, you were using a lot more things. This unit that I liked has your router integrated. A router is an upgraded, well, I won't say upgraded, it's a better capable switch. Switch and router are somewhat similar. There's variables. A hub is below that. Nowadays, you probably will not find any hubs. But if you go into a thrift store or some other place, you may find one someone gave away because they had it stashed away for years. If it still works, it'll basically still work the same as a switch. Only difference is it doesn't switch. It does not send your data down the one channel. It sends it down all the channels at once. Then it's up to the computer to know that traffic's for it or it ignores it. So it's not as efficient as a router. So you won't see them around. That's a legacy item. Odds are I'll do videos on that. It'll be under my legacies. But I want to bring it up because if you're a home user and say today you're working from home and you have a computer and you buy a computer for your son or daughter that they have to do their homework on, laptop, whatever, maybe your wife or husband is now working at home too. Now you need 3 units, 3 computers, 3 laptops, whatever combination you need to accommodate 3 people. What if you have 3 kids? Now you need 5 units. Now you have to go out and buy these units. You have to buy laptops, you have to buy computers, you have to buy monitors, you have to buy all this stuff it's a high cost. You don't need to pay a fortune to get them online. That's one of the factors I want to point out. Same thing with business. You may have 2 Wi-Fi set up in a location, and then all of a sudden you need something over here. There's alternatives where you can daisy chain these. You can make this one talk to that one, you make this one talk to that one, and make this one basically an access point without using an access point. There's a reason why you would want to do that. There's features in these that aren't in access points where you can enable. Where if you want to monitor who's on your network doing what, you don't have to log into this one and log into this one to see who's doing it. This one can keep all your logs, keep all your traffic. That's the difference. This unit can log all your logs, can log all your traffic, can log everything. This unit might not have those features. So you don't necessarily have to buy 2 of these to have 2 access points, 2 places where people can log on. I know it's getting more and more in depth, but the new alternative they have out are mesh networks. I'm sure people have seen them. Basically what it is this unit talks to this unit wirelessly that talks to that unit wirelessly. That's actually what I have in my office, is a mesh that goes to one access point to an access point that then goes out to the internet. It's easier to configure, to set up, to manage. But it's for home. It's just me, my wife, TVs, whatever on the internet. It's not business use. So if you're at home using it for simple things, you can do that. Other thing is if you set up a mesh network, doesn't stop you from setting this up. You can have separate wireless. It is best practice to really do that, because